All right, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. Vamos a empezar ahora. We're going to start this meeting. We have quorum. I want to advise ahead of time. We are going to be tabling the church item on 11th and East First Avenue. So whoever's waiting for that, even though it's in first reading, just to let you know, we will not be hearing that item today. Vamos a decirlo en español. Vamos a posponer el tema de la iglesia que está en la 11 y la primera. Vamos a seguir revisando y analizando ese proyecto. So, no lo vamos a tomar hoy. Vamos a tener comentarios públicos. Ahora voy para eso. Pero ese tema no se va a tomar hoy. So, para que no, porque yo sé que la agenda es un poco larga, para que no se queden por gusto, ¿viste? Vamos a tener comentarios públicos también. Y usualmente, como hemos hecho en el pasado, si hay un tema en la agenda, usualmente en comentarios públicos no lo escuchamos. Okay, porque por eso tenemos nosotros la primera lectura y la segunda lectura por cada tema. En la segunda lectura es cuando se abre para comentarios públicos, si es un tema específico. Si no, tenemos aquí en la sección de Public Comments, que es para hablar sobre cualquier otra inquietud. Ahora, yo hablé con el pastor, creo que está aquí, Leo, ¿cómo está? Yo le dije a ti que si por esta reunión nada más, si quieren hablar sobre este tema, sobre la iglesia, voy a dejar en comentarios públicos 2 en favor y 2 en contra, 3 minutos cada uno y ya. Okay? So we're going to get started. Call to order. Wait, where's Jackie? Okay, call to order.
Mr. Calvo is absent. Ms. Garcia Robes. Ms. Pacheco is absent. Ms. Perez is absent. Mr. Rodriguez.
Present.
Mr. Tunidor.
Present.
Mr. Zogby.
Present.
Mr. President, you have enough members to conduct business.
All right, the invocation led by Marbellis.
Lord, we ask for your continued blessing upon our city. We ask that you grant the members of this council wisdom and understanding in every decision they face for the benefit of our city. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance led by Councilman Zogby. Please rise.
All face the flag, please. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Gracias. Meeting guidelines.
All lobbyists must register with the city clerk. As a courtesy to others, please refrain from using cellular telephones or other similar electronic devices in the council chamber. A maximum of 3 speakers in favor and 3 speakers in opposition will be allowed to address the council on any one item. Each speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No signs or placards in support of or in opposition to an item or speaker shall be permitted within the council chamber. Any person, whether participating via the web platform, telephonic conferencing, or physical presence at City Hall, interested in making comments or posing questions on matters of public concern or on any item on the agenda may do so during the meeting. Members of the public may address the city council on any item pertaining to city business during the comments and questions portion of the meeting. A member of the public is limited to 1 appearance before the city council, and the speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The public can view public meetings on the city's YouTube page.
All right, heading over to presentations. I believe for item A, we're not ready to present.
That is correct, sir.
Okay, so let's move forward to item B.
The city of Hialeah recognizes city employees for 25 years of service by the Human Resources Department.
I think what we should do is go down so that we could properly recognize employees that have been with the city for 25 years. So we could do it from there, so we could Thank you. Thank you. When we talk about a city, in normal thought process, we talk about land, we talk about geography, we talk about spaces. Sometimes when we talk about a city, we talk about iconic features in the city. For example, in the city of Hialeah, obviously, Hialeah racetrack will stick out as an iconic. But really what makes a city is the people that inhabit the city, and then the people that work in the city. That's what really starts defining the construct of a city. So we've been blessed here in the city of Hialeah of having folks that have made it their life mission to serve this community through good, through bad time, through COVID, through budget cuts, what have you. There are employees in the city of Hialeah that their mission is to provide service on a daily basis. Their mission is to represent their families and if they live here in the city, obviously, represent their family or community in a very dignified way. And we have the pleasure of having folks that clearly we hired when they were about 10 years old, but now 25 years later, we get to do this as a recognition, not just for their service, but also just for the fact that they're good human beings here in the city of Hialeah. So if you bear with me, there are two that are not here with us today. One, le cogió medio al agua, parece. Nancy is not going to be here with us today. Nancy Alvarado from Fleet, and Lázaro Menendez from Construction and Maintenance is not here with us also. So we regardless whether they're here or not, we also acknowledge them and their service. But who is here with us, and we have a couple from the police department. We also have a few from the fire department. So we'd like to start off by asking Joseph Di Pietro. Joseph, come on down. 25 years. Joseph, thank you. No, quédate aquí, quédate aquí, quédate aquí, quédate aquí. Let's take a picture. 25 no se hacen todos los días. All right, get it up for Joseph. From the police department, Iris Caruso. Iris. You. From the Hialeah Fire Department, Daniel Cruz. Right. From the Hialeah Fire Department, Osnedi Castillo. All right. Alberto Martinez. And from the fire department, Michael Osorio. All right, 25 years. And last but not least of the 25-year-old babies, our own for marketing and sponsorship, David Fernandez. Outstanding. Congratulations to all the 25-year employees. And so we have one more. We have one more. Chief, you want to handle this?
All right, this next award goes to someone in the police department that makes 30 years. It's 30 years of caring for this city. He's an individual that works day in and day out for the betterment of our community. He's one that's known throughout our agency throughout the years, day and night, he is working. Weekends, he's working. Friends of his will tell him during lunch to please put the phone down so he could enjoy a meal. And it's an honor of mine to be able to announce him for this award of 30 years because he's one that makes all of our lives easier, not just mine. And that's Major Rudy Bello.
Oh, hold up, wait, there's gifts. Congratulations. 30 years serving the city.
Okay. So that was item B, C. Okay, we're moving on to item D.
George Martinez, Director of the City of Hialeah Construction and Maintenance Department, provides an update on completed and forthcoming projects.
George is on his way.
Yeah, so before George starts to speak, I just wanted to let the council know, we at the last budget cycle last year, there are projects that we identified during that time that, needed to get addressed and whatnot. And it to me, it's extremely important to not only keep you updated on the progress of these projects, but to verify that, we're putting our money where our mouth is, right? These are things that as a council, and as a mayor, we've all committed to. And so I'm proud of the work that they're doing. As you know, well, we've invested a lot of money in a lot of spaces that have been neglected for a long, long time. And under George's leadership, they're doing a fantastic job. So with that, George.
Good evening, Jorge Martinez, 900 East, 56th Street, Building 1. Okay, today we are going to give some information about the projects that have been complete, some projects that are in progress, and some projects that we think that we have to do in the next fiscal years. One of the projects that we have complete have the JFK Walkway. You're going to see some pictures here. The fleet roof that was completely, the main area of the roof of the fleet was the system of the renovation. That was in the boiler was to be complete renovate, but we did the change it, but we did the renovation with the new system with 10 years warranty. The fleet LED lighting system, my team was completing this project last week, and we installed more than 200 lamps in the base. This system is saving 50% of energy for the fleet departments. The Bokiden Gene AC system, that unit, the 27.5 ton, was 3 units that my team installed last month. This is the first step in the Bokiden project. The Bokiden project is on the renovation. We are going to do the roof, inside renovation, the floors, bleachers. We are working together with the park department to complete that in this fiscal year. After the installation of this unit, we are going to start to do the roof in the gym, a special population, the aquatic park, and the softball. And the last project that we have complete, it was the Osvaldo Payá Monument that we finally finished. It was more than a year trying to finish this. Something that we had to talk about. This project was complete with donation of many of the contractors that were with us. We also want to talk about the project that forthcoming projects. The more important project that we have in this moment, one of them is the FPNL ESCO study. This is a project that was approved by the council in 2020. We started this year, and we expect to finish in 2 months. This is an excellent tools that we are going to be using when we are going to plan the next budget in the next fiscal year, because this project with FPNL Corporation is energy saving project that will give you information about not only AC, chillers, motors, pumps, all kind of equipment that have a high consumed in the city. We have in progress 8 different buildings with roof. 4 buildings that I mentioned in the Bokiden system that is part of a huge renovation that we are going to do. We also have Bright Park, Victor White Park, and the main police station. The main police station is supposed to start at 2 next month. In the main police station, we also have the renovation of the 2 elevators that are down in this moment. And we are going to do the complete retrofit of the building with LED lighting with smart sensors, motion sensor, that is going to have a huge impact in the energy consumption of the main police station.
Jorge, on average, what's the age of the roofs here? Like at Bright Park or Victor Wild, do we have an idea of how old these roofs are?
They are more than 50 years old,
More than 50,
15 years old.
15, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this is part of the project that the mayor assigned to us, a park recreation, that we want to make the Boquidengo how it was before.
Mhm.
And it's going to be a long and huge project, but I think that if we can finish the roof in good time, the another project we're going to have, we want to finish before the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, how I said in the main police, we are going to do that with the LED. We also have in the affordable houses, the generators. We have some picture for the generators over there. Yeah, this is a project for the 300 unit buildings. We have 5 generators, one of each for each building, including the recreation center. This is a good investment because this building, what I hear about that during the hurricane, have so many problems with the elder people.
Mhm.
But we make a special design for this in order to have enough fuel for 7 days. That's mean 300 buildings is going to be covered in case of any situation with hurricane or power outage. We are also working in the renovation of the kitchen for the fire station. We are going to have 3 fire stations this year. Fire station 7, 5, and 1, that we are going to do new kitchen because they are in very, very bad shape. We have some pictures also for the roof of the public works that is in progress, supposed to finish this month. And I also want to speak about the assessment that my department did by himself. FP&L is doing the study, but we did our own assessment. We started last year and we finished because there are some situations in affordable houses and in the building of the city wall that I want to present to you some picture because this is going to be a good information where we're going to take determination about the next fiscal years. We have this picture that you're going to see in affordable houses are the AC system that we have. We have more than 60% of the AC in the affordable houses have more than 50 years old. That's mean 65 years old, 60% with more than 50 years old. This is the same problem that we have with the appliances in the affordable houses. Appliances in the affordable houses, most of them are the appliances that came with the buildings. That's mean all the appliances have more than 15, 70 years old, and we are changing this unit as needed. But I don't think that we can continue doing this. We have to invest some money to start. We can change buildings by building because if not, we are going always to be working in demand, just according to what is needed, what is reported. The same problem we have in different buildings. I'm going to show you some picture of the AC units in the police, the main police station. You can pass that. That is an example of the unit, and you will see how it's from another angle. This is how it looks. That's mean we have in the police department, we have 29% with 10 or more years. We are waiting to change all these units, but why I said, I do not pretend that we have money to change in the first fiscal year, but we can plan this in the coming fiscal years in order that we can improve. All these units that you see with 17, 15 or more years has Freon R22. There is no manufacturer here since 2012, and it's imported for different countries, but also it's very difficult to find exactly R22 because just a 30-pounder costs $500 a piece. That means you are going to see 25% or you are investing in a new unit, you are spending gas for a unit that have more than 70 years old. In the fire department, this situation is 32% from the same kind of unit. I think that we have to plan in the future to start to change everything that is Freon R22, that is a very contaminated refrigerant. In Park and Rec, things have changed because I have been working with the park department in order to prioritize all the AC that we have in the roof to be repaired. In order that when we are going to finish with the roof, we are have that roof complete, we have to come back to change unit to affect the warranty of the roof. The JFK library is very special. You only have a unit with a big capacity, but 6 of them have more than 17 years old. That means the JFK will need to change the unit ASP because it's just a single building with 6 units in pretty bad condition. The same thing happened in City Wall. We changed in City Wall many buildings as needed, but how you can see is still 22% and 20% for 10 or more years. This is just to show you the situation that we have in the HVAC system. In another thing that we have been working is the street lights. The city of Hialeah have a street light that are maintained by FPNL, someone by Dade County, and someone by us. FPNL changed 3,200 last year. Miami-Dade is changing, start to change it some of the street. You can see it in 12th Avenue, 16th Avenue. And we pretend to start to change all the old system that we have that is vapor sodio, that is hard to find parts, very expensive. And if we are able to assign some of the funds to the street light, we will be able to change in a couple of years. This is a huge saving in energy. We want to go green, we have to get out of this situation that we have with the vapor sodio and metal highlight. The system that we want to implement, the LED, is expensive. We know that it's expensive, but this is where every city is going to be. All the city that we know, like West Palm Beach, has been working with FPNL and another private vendors. But I think that this is one of the things that we have to take care ASAP. We want to have a different view in the city because, you know, we are going to have 5 or 5 different lights and we are going to be fixing what is broken constantly. I think that is a good thing that take in consideration for the next budgets. Thank you very much. Any question?
Just one question, Jorge, and you might not have the answer now, and that's fine. But how would we, if a resident comes and asks us, hey, you know, our block gets a little dark at night, right? We don't have enough lights. What, is there a process? Is there like a specific ratio or a study that's done?
We receive everyday complaints about lights. In this moment, I have, just that you know, we have 2 electricians with 1 bucket truck that do not belong to us, belong to Park. Thank you, Park. And this bucket truck is used by us and Park. What happened is that we have 2 electricians for 3,600 lights. If we change to LED, we are going to save a lot of time and resources, not only because it's saving 50% or more of energy, because the LED lights have 10-year warranty. And to maintain that lights is, you know, is more easy. But we are working upcoming. I have received from your office some requests. We have taken care of that. But remember, every time that is a downpour for an accident, whatever, we have to stop all the maintenance and prioritize what is the emergency.
Right. No, pero digo, so the not the existing lights, but new lights, right? What would be the process of exploring that, right?
Well, we are working on it. We are working with, we are working with different vendors to, if we have the funding, we are going to go to an ITB because it's easy for us and all of the municipalities and their counties doing. They go to outside vendors that are specialized in changing, and instead to take all 4 years with the 2 electricians that I have and that bucket truck, it's going to be in a couple of years or less if we have the funding. But we had to go to an ITV and because it's not cheap.
Got it.
I don't think we want to be in the business of owning lights. So those kind of requests, I think usually are going to traffic through to FPL, perhaps as a better way. I did want to point out, because I think it's extremely important. A lot of the investments you see that is being talked about are in 2 critical areas that I think all of us are committed to serving. in our senior population, obviously, these backup generators are critically important. All of us have been through named and unnamed storms where we go into these buildings to help, and in many cases, and in some cases, they've been without power for an extended period of time, and it exposes a very vulnerable part of our community. So this is again a very extremely important investment. Nothing that Jorge has just talked about should be considered a luxury in any shape or form. These are either things that have not been attended to or things that are critically needed. The other one is in our park space. When many of you will remember, there was a time when the parks were closed on weekends. And obviously a decision made because of budget situations and whatnot. But what we tried to commit to was to make sure that our parks are open every day of the week, and that programming is going on every day of the week. And I'm sure all of you, or some of you perhaps, have gone to the parks and have seen the amount of activity that's going on in our parks. And it is really putting pressure on us to continue to invest in that space, proper lighting, proper facilities for our children and our families. And through that, we're trying to work with the school board to add more capacity to the menu of options that our families could have here in the city as far as our parks are concerned. So as I said from the outset, I think it's important to see where the money is being invested, the importance of these investments, and the need for us to sustain these investments in our community are critical for quality of life for our residents, young and old.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. Just a quick message. The door to the left isn't properly secure. So please, if you're going to exit through the right door. La puerta a la izquierda no está trabajando en este momento. So si se van, por favor, usen la puerta a la derecha. Gracias. All right. Moving on to comments and questions.
For our registered speakers, the first one, we have Christopher Monson.
All right. Mr. Monson. Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Name is Christopher Monson. Address 7540 West 20th Avenue, apartment 106, zip code 33016, Hialeah, Florida. Members of the council, mayor, I've stood here many a time before you, and sometimes the things I have said have been positive, and sometimes they have been negative, but I want to clarify something this evening to you all, and in particular to you, Mayor Bovo. I am not an adversary of your administration, and I am not ever here to be one when I do speak. When I speak, it is on behalf of the residents and because I love my city. When I speak, it is because I have concerns and I want to voice those concerns on behalf of the residents because they matter. And so therefore, with that having been said, I have a concern tonight in regards to our system of democracy. I feel, and I have talked to the county supervisor of elections in regards to this matter, and I have looked at the charter as well. And I think that there is more than enough time between now and the 1st of November to hold a special election for the city of Hialeah, and that the residents should have the ability to choose the candidate that they feel fit for the office that Brian Calvo is vacating. And I hope that that is considered. I hope that the voice of the people shall be heard, and that whoever does run for that position shall win on their merits and shall serve the city to the utmost of their ability. Thank you very much, and God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you. Okay. Who's the next
Through
member?
the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Mr. Monson, for bringing this important topic for discussion. And, I was in conversations with the Department of Elections, and I have an email from them. And it says, in order to take part in the November 5th, 2024 general election, the candidate qualifying period must conclude by Friday, August 23rd, 2024. And all candidate oath submission must be received by 5 p.m. So I have this email. It was sent by Elizabeth Prieto at the Miami-Dade County Department of Elections, because I've had many constituents approached me that they're very interested in having an opportunity to serve in our city and would like to have that chance to run for this vacancy. Now, I was reviewing the city charter and there is nothing there that says that we cannot hold a special election. And my colleague's resignation is irrevocable. It was submitted almost a month ago. So even if he were to change his mind right now and say that he doesn't want to resignate, there's nothing that can be done about that because it's irrevocable. I would like to motion to bring back an ordinance to hold a special election to fill this vacancy on the earliest possible day. So I am motioning for that. Would someone second it?
Thank you. Is that even, can we even do that? What's like,
We opined on this before, so I'll opine on it again.
Yeah.
The issue is we spoke to the county elections department. So there's a city charter, but there's also state law. State law, as you all know, is generally a governing thing when it applies. And the state law, the resign to run law, Florida statute 99.012 specifically states that the resignation is effective on the date of stated. The resignation is stated to be effective on November 1st. So again, I will repeat what I said before. If you wanted a different result, the resignation had to be effective at once to allow qualifying period, ordinance, preparation, all the other qualifying elements. So we did speak to the county about this, and that's my interpretation of the state law, and that is it, sir, and counsel respectfully.
all right.
Okay, through the chair. Well, I spoke with the Department of Elections, and yes, even though his resignation is effective November 1st, it is irrevocable. We already know we've been given ample notice that he is resigning. We don't have to hold a special election we don't have to include it in the November ballot, but we can hold a special election at any time after that. Also, the Department of Elections did not refer to state law in the fact that when we have to have the special election, they said that according to the Miami-Dade County Department of Elections right now, there's nothing that would impede the city of Hialeah, including this in the November ballot. We would just have to refer to our city charter. So we cannot have a special election to have someone commence before his effective resignation date, but yes, after that. I would like to, like I say, I motion to have a special election to fill this vacancy at the earliest possible date.
Perfect. Councilwoman, let's pick this up in new business because this is the public comment section. So, yeah.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
So can I ask the city attorney, what is it, in your opinion?
Well, so Councilman, let's pick this up in new business. Let's
No,
let's
it's
let's
just a
finish.
quick question on this topic.
Let's finish it. Let's finish public
All
comments.
right,
Let's finish public comments and we'll pick it up in new business.
all right.
Let's not take
We're
away any more
already-
time from the
we're already on
people.
the
So
topic.
let's
I
Let me
would,
finish
call the
question.
next.
The
Oh, excuse-
question is, what would be the earliest possible date that the city could have a special election?
So, City Attorney, let's pick this up in new business.
all right.
All right?
With,
Go ahead. Call the
excuse me,
next-
through the
call the next
chair,
guy.
with all due respect.
Yeah.
I remember at my very first council meeting, and that's why I'm doing it this way, because I learned from my first council meeting. Right at the beginning of the meeting, when my colleague, Ms. Monica Perez, she was giving a statement about stepping down from council president. She unexpectedly motioned to nominate you as the president. And my colleague Calvo wanted to say something, and he was not allowed to speak because there was a motion on the table. And that was
Okay.
the beginning of the meeting. It wasn't new business. So
Okay.
I'm thinking, the same way that applied, those rules applied in that circumstance, in that
Yeah.
scenario.
Yeah.
It's as,
We were on that agenda item at the time. We're not under new business. We're in public comments. So we could pick this up again. I'm not saying, well, let's pick this up again in new
all right,
business.
thank
okay?
you.
Next person, please.
Juan Santana.
Good evening, sir.
Juan Santana, 5601 West 10th Avenue. Well, looking at the presentation, it shows that infrastructure is moving slowly but steady. at the speed of money. That's basically what the presentation showed. Recently, I've been contacted on Saturday. I went to go see some residents over there up by 25th Street and Lejeune 26th and 27th Street. Spoke to them. Guys, that way you know what's going on. A lot of these realtors are over there harassing the elderly residents, trying to pressure them to sell their properties. And this is not right. This is not right. You know, that person called another neighbor, and then another neighbor came, and next thing you know, it was like 7 of us there. And it was very interesting what they were saying. You know, you have realtors literally coming to bother them every single week about trying to buy up their property on the block. I reached out to the rest of the residents in those 2 blocks, and what's it called? I'm gonna make sure that we're gonna stop this nonsense of coming to harass these elderly residents. We need to bring more awareness. I think you guys need to be aware of this. That way you guys know, you know what it is that somebody comes and knocks on your door. Hey, how are you? I want to buy your house. No, I'm not interested in selling the house. Why not? Because if I go buy something else, it's going to be more expensive and more taxes. Can't afford it. It's as simple as that. And then the following week, again, and then again, it doesn't stop. So I'm just letting you guys know what's happening with the elderly people that own houses in Hialeah that are not living under the thumb of the city, right? And Hialeah housing are being affected. And this is a concern not only for me, but I think it should be a concern for you guys as well, especially with the way that that's being done. You know, some people have money, they go ahead and sell their house for, like, I found out, the neighbor showed me how much they sold it for. Come to find out, the guy sold this house for $2 million and he can't find nothing to buy. So now he's stuck renting. So now they were forced to sell their American dream, right? They were forced to sell their American dream to now become a slave to renting, you know? And then if you don't get rid of that money, that 1023 exchange, you know, you have a certain time limit, 180 days, guys, 180 days. If not, they get taxed 43% of that money to the IRS as a capital gains tax. You know, a lot of these residents don't know that. A lot of them don't know that. That's why I tell them, listen, $1 million these days is nothing. As we can clearly see with all the projects that are happening, that again, we're working at the speed of money at 10% every single year here. But I just wanted to bring that to you guys' awareness. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Next person.
Carmen Montejo.
Okay, señora, usted va a venir a hablar sobre la iglesia.
Sí.
Okay, so it's one person. Okay, va.
¿Cómo?
No, está bien, nada más para mantener el número aquí de personas que están hablando del tema. Nombre y apellido, por favor.
Buenas noches, Carmen Montejo.
Good evening, Carmen Montejo.
Y nombre y apellido.
Carmen Montejo, 165 East Sunset Street.
105 West 11th Street. East 11th Street.
Sí. Yo sigo y seguiré diciéndole a ustedes lo
I have
importante
said once and I will keep saying the
que
importance,
son las iglesias en nuestra comunidad.
how important the churches in our community are.
Los abogados te ayudan con los problemas del mundo.
The lawyers help us with the issues in the world.
Los doctores con las enfermedades.
The doctors with our illnesses.
Pero los pastores y los sacerdotes te ayudan con el espíritu. Y
But
eso
the-
es lo más importante.
But pastors help us with our spirit, and that is the most important thing.
En la iglesia la juventud no se pierde.
The church and the young does not
Y
get
si
lost.
llegan perdidos por las drogas o por el alcohol,
And
ahí
if-
salen sanos.
And if anyone comes hurt or broken, the church will save you.
Aquí en las iglesias lo que dan es ayuda a la comunidad, dan
The-
comida a los necesitados.
The church helps the community, gives food to the ones in need.
Ustedes podrán tomar la decisión que quieran, pero su conciencia y su corazón le dirán si están actuando bien cuando
You-
hay tantas personas en contra.
You can go ahead and make any decision you like, but your conscience can be clear of any decision that you make against the community.
Esta es la 4ª vez que estamos aquí pidiéndole su ayuda.
This is the 4th time that we're here asking for your help.
Yo creo que el puesto de ustedes en esa silla es para beneficio del pueblo.
I think that the position you're in on that chair is to benefit the community.
no de las corporaciones millonarias que quieren seguir siendo más y
not
más
of the million-dollar
millonarias
corporations,
sin importarles lo que tengan que hacer.
without the importance of what they have to do.
Yo quisiera saber cuál es el interés de los que no están de acuerdo o de los que están de acuerdo en
I
que
would
tome
like-
la iglesia.
I would like to
Si
know,
tienen un interés especial en
I
eso.
would like to know the interests of those who are in favor of this project.
Por lo tanto, no queremos, y me refiero a muchas personas,
We
porque
don't want, and I refer to many people,
en toda la comunidad, todo el mundo quiere ese lugar. Ese lugar le pertenece a Dios solamente. Esa fue y será su
everyone,
casa.
a lot of people, many
siempre.
people love that place, and it's a place for God.
¿Por qué le es tan difícil tomar una decisión? Ustedes tan fácil. Dios
How
es
is
lo
this
más
so-
importante.
How is it so easy
Para
to make
todo.
a decision? God is the
Sin Él
most
nada es
important thing.
posible.
Without him, nothing is
Ustedes tienen
possible.
hijos, tienen nietos y saben lo
You all have
verdadera
kids, sons.
razón que existen las iglesias, para qué sirven. Gracias
Thank
y
you.
espero que tomen una buena decisión.
I hope you
Gracias.
make the right decision.
Gracias.
Gracias, señora.
Who's next?
Leonardo Acosta.
Name and address, please, sir.
Leonardo Acosta, 7665 West 12th Avenue. I am in opposition to the destruction of the church temple. The church temple represents, like the lady said before me, the salvation, the healing, mind, soul, and spirit. When we have anybody sick, we go to the doctor, we go to the hospital. When we have problems with our vehicle, we go to the mechanic. When there's a crisis in a home, people are getting divorces. Kids are being separated, getting to drugs, coming from drugs, coming from all type of bad habits. The church is there. And as the first responders, we as ministers, we serve the community 24/7. We do not serve on a part-time level. We do not serve on a full-time level. We serve as a full-time and extra time. There's no overtime for us. And that's what we chose to do by the calling of God. Now, the church represents, the building represents a place of hope for the community. It represents a place of healing. And it also represents a place where people could go and worship the Almighty God. It also represents the good news for all the community. History states it. Jesus Christ died, but he rose again the third day. The good news is the gospel of Jesus Christ. That you cannot erase it, not from history, not from the Bible, or any other book that it mentions it. We are here in defense of that building. Why? Because there's plenty of land where our opposition are building. Fine. Let them be prosperous. Let the city be prosperous. God bless everybody. But why destroy a building that has been dedicated for the worship of God and God only? Why? Because they want to prosper more? God has the ultimate word. He gives us the breath, gives every single one of us the breath of life. Where do we stand? Now, when we, the church, want to look for some place to worship or fellowship, we have all type of restrictions. Yet, now the doors has been opened for somebody else to come to destroy a temple to build something else. And also, when there's a church, there's less crime. When there's no church, the crime increases. God bless you and thank you for your time.
Thank you. One second, sir. 1 second. Next person.
Jean Pierre Barreto.
Yeah, that's fine. Come on. Name and address, sir, please.
My name is Gene Barreto, address 2238 West 74th Street, Hialeah, Florida. I wrote it down just to make it easier for everybody. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for taking the time to let me speak. As you already heard, I am in opposition as well of the destruction of the temple. The church is far more than just a structure. It's a sanctuary, a beacon of hope, and a vital part of our community. I grew up around here, to be specific, on 17th Street and 5th Avenue. And years ago, on these very streets, I was actually struggling with addiction. At the age of 13, I began using, and I was trying to fill a void that I had had. Like many young boys in Hialeah, I grew up in a one-parent household. My mom did her best to raise me and my sister, but I was determined on a path of self-destruction. Between the ages of 13 and 17, I used heavily, and I would use and over-abuse whatever I could get my hands on. And I would go to class under the influence, and not the principals, not the school officers, no one ever noticed my condition. At the age of 17, I had had enough, and I told myself that unless there was some sort of divine intervention, I would be ending my life. That Sunday, I went to church. And it was in church that someone stretched out their hand, metaphorically speaking, paid attention to me, and not knowing what I was planning to do or thinking, they presented me with an opportunity to change. To make a really long story very short, the care and actions of these people in the church triggered a series of events in my life, and these events led me to give up drugs because I no longer needed to fill that void. I found purpose, I found meaning in life. I was able to forgive those who hurt me, including my father. I met my wife in church, and I look forward to now having a son running around my church. The church for me was a lighthouse in the middle of my darkness. I was on a path to becoming one of the many statistics that say that boys raised in a single-parent household end up in prison, rehab, or dead. And I'm happy to say that it's because of God first and then the church that I am standing before you 14 years sober. I could have been a burden on society. I could have been a burden to the officer standing right there. But instead, now I'm a net positive. I have made it now my mission to be like the man who took the time to listen to me in my time of need. In church, I now listen to young men in their time of need. I'm guiding them, instructing them, and trying my best to be an example. I know that right now, someone is walking around unnoticed on these very streets looking for hope. And if you allow this temple to be destroyed, one day they will walk up to the corner of East 1st Avenue and 11th Street looking for help. And instead of finding a church, they will find apartment stores, a liquor store, some restaurant. They'll find something and they'll leave exactly the same way as they arrived. And to finish, to echo the words of the pastor, we're not against the investors. We want prosperity for the city, but at what cost? At what cost of your constituents? That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Name and address.
Yeah, of course. Hugo Arza, 701 Brickell Avenue. As you know, Mr. President, normally I wouldn't have to sign a card to speak. We were expecting this item. I am counsel for the applicants on this for this church property. Obviously, I appreciate the courtesy of you letting me know as the meeting started, your desire to defer the item this evening. My clients wish to move forward this evening. They've asked me to come up here and state we were deferred once at planning and zoning, had to come back a second time. We were here 2 weeks ago, deferred. So we've been at this process for a while, and we're prepared. And I think the neighbors are here and prepared. I mean, they're here and ready to speak. It would mean them coming back out again. You know, I don't know. I didn't obviously speak with you beyond your courtesy of letting me know that you wanted to ask the council to defer the item this evening. But you know, we're ready to move forward this evening. It's been a burden to us to wait. We hear a lot of the arguments here, and frankly, you know, my instinct is to rebut some of the comments, not the passion behind what they're saying. That's fine. I appreciate the passion, but some of the comments of what they're talking about, which are not, you know, are not accurate, quite frankly. And so they're having an opportunity to have a discussion and discuss this during public comment, but we're not hearing the item and we're not getting a chance to make our full presentation, which I think prejudices also our client. So you know, it's up to this council to decide whether they want to hear this evening, hear the item this evening. I got a great deal of respect for you, and I appreciate you having the courtesy, and thank you for letting me know beforehand. But after consulting with my client, we would ask that you consider moving this item forward this evening. And, obviously we know that that's your call. But if you do so, we'll be ready to present. My partner and I will be ready to present during the item. Otherwise, we'll let you deliberate. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Ms. Arthur. Appreciate it. All right. Do we have anyone online?
We have one more registered speaker, Yaira Flores
What is
Pujols.
this? Is this with regards to the church?
Yes, sir. I'll
Okay,
split
we've,
this.
we've passed the limit already on that. And then anyone else?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Anyone, go ahead. Name and address, ma'am.
Sorry, this thing with 5:30 is horrible with the traffic and the rain. Thank you for letting me speak. Millie Herrera, 4341 East States Lane. Hialeah is in trouble. We have a lot of problems. I promised I was going to bring you something on the police. Please remember that I'm not an expert, but I did a lot of research. I know there must be an agenda to destroy most of Hialeah, East Hialeah, Southeast, our historic Hialeah Park, and now Westland Mall, a church. It's very sad. The rapid and out of control overdevelopment requires more public work. More public works, we just saw from even an air conditioner, but also more police officers. Let's think about our safety. The lack of police officers puts those who are employed overworked and stressed, and it's not good for their physical or mental wellness. And it's not good for the safety of the community because a stressed out, hungry police officer reacts more than he thinks. Most large city police departments pool about 40% of their general fund, and it costs more even to retain good officers. All the additional municipal taxes that you believe that you are going to garnish from these high rises are going to be exhausted just from the police department. It is probably the one that takes most of the chunk. These dense cities and where there are large apartment buildings, you have more crime. And then you need to go to your optimum number of police officers per capita. In dire emergencies, these high risers are harder to get in and out, and especially if there is a serious criminal or something in there or a fire. We just experienced that in Miami now. Areas where you have a lot of apartment buildings get more emergency calls. And we're looking at the very minimum 16 to 17 police officers, which would be about 380 for the city of Hialeah, with a population approximately of 230,000. I think there's more, I don't know. At best, maybe 20 police officers for every 10,000 residents, which put our number about 450, 460, 470. And optimum, if we could have those 24, 25 police officers. Because where you have single family homes, you don't need it. The salary altogether with insurance, uniform, vehicle could be about 92 for starting officer, 160,000 average, and up to 300,000 depending on the rank and special unit. I hope that you take this into consideration and you issue a moratorium and you move slower. And yes, you can issue a moratorium against the Live Local Act because the Live Local Act rips you of that tax. Anyways, we should be united in this and we should represent your constituency and the concern. Juan Santana mentioned it. The people are upset. They asked me if Monica Perez voted for the building. We showed her the picture.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Herrera. All right.
Through the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would like to, speaking of the concerns of the rapid progression of this development, I don't know if you're aware, there was a massive fire yesterday at in Little Havana, I believe it was Little Havana. It was a 4-story building and that required over about 126 firefighters and 30 units to fight that fire. Now, here in Hialeah, we're seeing development going up everywhere. It's going up quickly and we're not keeping up with that pace in hiring firefighters and expanding our first responders. Now think about it. If that 4-story building required 126 firefighters to combat the blaze. Over 50 people were evacuated. Some people, there were some injuries, some people had to go to the hospital. Imagine these with hundreds of apartments. Hialeah is not prepared at this moment to deal with that type of catastrophe. It's endangering lives. It's very important to listen to constituent concerns and what they want for their communities. And that's a priority. But even more so is the fact that when we're building too fast and we're not keeping up with the needs, what we need to have for those buildings, it endangers lives. Now, if there's a power outage,
Specific item?
No,
if,
no.
if there's a power outage and the pumps cannot deliver the water to the fire sprinklers, the city of Hialeah, the infrastructure that it has, there will not be enough water pressure to deliver water to the highest floors of the buildings. So keep that in mind. And, this is being said here today. For the record, if this continues and one day there's a tragedy, it was put out there.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman. All right, if that's all, then we're going to move over to board appointments, or I'm sorry, announcements of amendments.
Items PZ2 and PZ4 are postponed until the city council meeting of June 25th, 2024, per the applicant's request. And items 11A and 11B are withdrawn from the agenda.
All righty, board appointments,
None, sir.
consent agenda. Anyone want to pull items? All right,
Motion.
Go to the chair.
yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's gonna be items C and D.
C and D. Okay, oh, he's here. Okay, let's, all right. Councilman, one second, Councilman Calvo, we have, the person who was here for item A, Dr. Kiroff, who is gonna get an award. Do you mind if we go back real quick to give him
No,
the
go
award
ahead.
and we'll, okay. So let's do item A. You want to call that to the record?
The Hialeah Fire Department presents an award to Dr. Kiroff in recognition of 25 years of service to the department as the medical director.
Recognize the fire chief.
Okay, so we have the fire chief here, Willie Guerra. Willie, I don't know if you want to say a few words.
This is Dr. Kiroff. He's been our medical director for the last 25 years. He serves as medical director for many departments. He's actually the guru that most medical directors around South Florida actually go to. He served 6 fire chiefs, 4 mayors. So he's been around for a while and he's still around a phone call away. He answers right back for any issues that might come up in the city or for that matter, any individual.
Did you just tell all of us what the medical director does?
He directs medical.
We'll walk into that.
He's basically in charge of our protocols, medical protocols, any updates. If there's a specific traumatic event and there's something outside our protocols, we would call him directly and try to deviate from what we do if it's a life-saving measure, which has happened in the past in different areas. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. Medical direction, quality oversight, EMS and their providers. You have one of the strongest EMS rescue systems in the country. Outstanding person, smart, motivated, eager to do a good job. What I do is I counsel them. I'm in a supervisory status over the paramedics. They work not directly under my license, but through my license. And then I provide medical direction as well as writing the protocols by which they operate. And I've counseled the city during the pandemic and things of that nature as well. So,
Right?
I appreciate the 25 years. Your name came up recently when we were having discussions in my office with regards to what was going on with the 2 hospitals in our city. and the importance of being able to dialogue with you from the standpoint of if we're transporting patients, you know, where they should be going, and are these hospitals fitting the needs for our residents? And I want to speak on behalf of the department, as your acknowledgement of our EMS folks. They do a great job. They train hard and they work through good and bad times. And they are a direct link in many cases to the residents for our city. A lot of folks rely, and it works through the 911 system to get to the EMS folks that go out and provide service on a daily basis. And one gets educated in these things. You're part of that process. I don't know what kind of magic you do from afar, but that the training protocols and the discipline that is required to meet those protocols obviously has your fingerprints on it. And so on behalf of the city, we appreciate. I think we got bearing gifts. Outstanding.
All right. Okay, heading back to consent agenda, we have items C and D pulled by Councilman Cabo. Do we have any other items? Oh, B, item B as well. Okay, any other items? So we have a motion by the Vice President. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Rodriguez.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes.
Motion carries. The consent agenda has passed except items B, C, and D.
Perfect. Item B.
Proposed resolution supporting the Miss Universe Cuba project and expressing its approval of the aims, goals, and objectives of the Miss Universe Cuba project as provided herein and providing for an effective date.
Mayor Bobo.
Yeah, just to make you aware, that for the first time in at least 65 years, maybe more, the Miss Universe pageant will have a contestant that is representing Cuba. What is interesting about this is that Cuba representative is going to come out of the exile community. So the rights to be able to do a contest here in South Florida and name a Miss Cuba is a reality. It is authorized by the Miss Universe pageant. And I've met with the organizers. They are meeting with different cities. Also, obviously, it's a great opportunity to have our city shine as a participant, perhaps in an announcement or a venue. Same with the other cities. So this resolution just expresses our support. And again, just want to make it crystal clear, this would be, in essence, someone that comes from our community, an exile community. But it would be the first time in, I want to say 65 years, maybe it's a little bit more than that, since the revolution, that we have a contestant that will represent Cuba in the Miss Universe pageant.
Thank you, Mayor.
Somebody a motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Zogby.
Second.
You have a second by the Vice President. Call roll, please.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
All right, item C.
Proposed resolution prohibiting awarding city contracts and city-funded grants to businesses who facilitate or assist in facilitating recreational trips and vacations for leisure to Cuba.
Councilman Calvo.
Thank you. Well, first off, I'd like to thank the mayor for co-sponsoring this resolution with me. And thank you to my colleagues on the city council for unanimously helping to bring this in today's meeting. So over the past couple weeks, as we've been working on the language. I've had the opportunity to do a little bit more research. Just to remind everyone, the reason that this resolution came to light is obviously, we've seen what members of the Cuban regime have done in terms of coming to some of the most secure areas of Miami International Airport and getting a behind the scenes tour at TSA. That'll be a separate resolution that we'll be discussing next. But clearly, I think there's an intervention by the Cuban government in South Florida. And I would like to say the term that there's a hyper intervention in the past couple of months. We've also seen what happened with Rocha and sort of his deep spy status that he had within the U.S. government. The reason this ordinance came up, or this resolution came up rather, is because of this business that we have in our community known as Cuba Max. And just to be clear, Cuba Max is a business that collects packages and coordinates travel to the island of Cuba. I read at last meeting some of the information that they put on their very own website saying how they want foreigners to visit Cuba and have a great time there, and Cubans as well. And so they make it this very rosy image of traveling to and from the island of Cuba. But not only that, I mean, it doesn't stop there. The owners of Cuba Max, to my knowledge, are Mr. Acosta and Mr. Trujillo. And they've actually met directly with Miguel Diaz-Canel when he visited New York for the United Nations. Their attorney for this business, Cuba Max, is Mr. Man by the name of Karel Suarez, who's also taken pictures, posted them online very joyously with the Minister of Exterior Relations in Cuba, which is Mr. Bruno Rodriguez Barrilla. Funny enough, and there's ample evidence to corroborate this, but Cuba Max was also a sponsor of the Festival of Music at San Remo in Cuba, which was an event that was sponsored by the wife of Diaz-Canel, which is Liz Cuesta. They as well had they actually have government vehicles. Cuba Max uses government plated vehicles in Cuba to deliver many of the packages that people send coming here from Hialeah. So obviously, this resolution doesn't mention Cuba Max specifically by name, but what it does try to do is a few things. Number one, obviously, I think this council has been very clear when we discussed it last time, which is to solidify that Cuba is a systematic and continued brutal and dictatorship by the Cuban people. And moreover, that the city of Hialeah takes a very hostile policy towards businesses that align themselves and support the Cuban government. The reason that we're able to do this, as many of you know, is we have an embargo here in the United States on travel-related transactions, and that's codified in federal law. So under that guise and under the guise of what's permitted here in the state of Florida and by our city charter, the resolution would prohibit the city of Hialeah from awarding city contracts, city-funded grants to any business who facilitates or assists in facilitating recreational trips and vacations for leisure to Cuba. That's step one. Now, there was another thing that I wanted to put in this resolution, and I was trying to work with the city attorney to get that in there. I would like to amend this version of the resolution, if we can. And that was to do, I think, a more ambitious second step. And that second step would be to prevent any sort of concessions other than what is explicitly required under state law or federal law to any of these businesses. Clearly, what we saw at the last meeting was that Cuba Max, in that specific scenario, was looking for a series of variances here in the city to, in essence, grow their business, make it better, lead to more clients, et cetera, et cetera. And that's just something that I think we can't allow here in the city of Hialeah. We are a capitalist country. We are a country of freedoms. And in that, you have the freedom to operate your business as you wish. even though I personally, I think many of my colleagues here on the council wouldn't give our businesses necessarily to these companies. But to the extent that these companies want to grow, and to the extent that these companies want the city to grant it permissions above and beyond what the code explicitly requires, I think the city of Hialeah needs to be very firm and very actionable that we're not going to be allowing that in our city, at least to the extent that we can. And so I would like to amend that. I would like the city attorney to add that in there as a section 3 or what have you. And I think that'll really be the final step to getting this passed today.
In light of the pronouncements by the council member, I guess what we could do is add a separate section that would say the city intends to deny any approval or privilege that is discretionary to the city and not required by law. Because again, as you earlier said, council member, all these things are true, but we're also in the United States and people have certain rights to petition things and to request things. So I don't think we can bar them, but the city can announce its intention to, unless something is required to be granted,
Right.
that the city will be disinclined.
Yeah, and if we can use the word concession as well in that phrase, I think that'll be great.
We'll use the word concession as well. We're going to say the city intends to deny any concession or approval that is discretionary to the city to such businesses that support and collude with the Cuban communist dictatorship, something that is agreeable.
Yep, that would be agreeable. And we just want to make sure that it's the same sort of language, I think, in section 2. I think 2 might be slightly more narrow because
No,
we're only
we're
talking.
gonna add this as a separate section.
Right, but the section 2 is specifically city contracts and funded grants.
Yes, it's city contracts and funded grants because the city controls that as a
Right, yeah,
proprietary.
I'm saying to mirror the language of what you just said with this, going with what you just said now.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, it uses the word prohibits. So you want, I mean, prohibits is what it says is the city contracts and city
Yeah,
funded grants.
Let me kind of simplify that. So section 2 is saying we're not going to give city contracts or any city business to businesses that facilitate or assist in facilitating trips and vacations to Cuba.
Yes.
And then what you just said now, if I remember correctly, is colluding or working with the Cuban government.
Okay.
There's a difference there. And I think we should just, for uniformity, keep it all consistent.
Okay, so we can add because it's who are facilitate or assisting in recreational trips and who are colluding with the Cuban. Is that, so you can have
Yeah,
that same
the
thought?
most expansive version of it.
Okay. And who are colluding with the regressive communist dictatorship. And we will add the other section about, which I can repeat, but I already read out. Whereas any concession, approval, and so forth that is discretionary to the city, to such business, the city would intend to deny it unless it's required by law.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you. So yeah, with that, I motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Calvo.
Second.
We have a second by the Vice President. Call the roll.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles,
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item passes as amended.
Item D.
Proposed resolution condemning the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, for failing to inform city and county officials of a Cuban delegation's visit to Miami International Airport, providing for transmittal and providing for an effective date.
Councilman Calvo.
Thank you. So this is that second one that we were just talking about. This one has to do with TSA. It doesn't have that much teeth to it. Obviously, we don't control the airport. But I did want to make a slight edit here and strike the fourth whereas clause, if we can.
You want to strike the fourth whereas clause?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you're moving it with that amendment?
That's right.
Okay. All right. So, okay. No, that's the first one. This one's right. Yeah, that's that one there. Right. You're moving it with striking, that is deleting the fourth whereas clause.
Yeah, the one
Okay.
that talks about Mayor Cobb.
Right. Okay, that's fine. So I understand. Thank you.
Okay, so was that a motion?
Motion, yep.
It was a motion by Councilman Calvo,
Second.
second by the Vice President.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item has passed as amended.
Okay, so.
Thank you.
All right, so we're heading over now to administrative items. I see 11A is withdrawn, 11B is withdrawn, 11C.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending chapter 26 entitled Code of Ethics, Article 2 entitled City Officers and Employees of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Hialeah, and in particular by amending Code Section 26-36 entitled Financial Disclosure to provide use of the Miami-Dade County Disclosure Form, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, this is a second reading. Do we have any public comments? All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion.
We have a motion by the Vice President.
Second.
We have a second by Rodriguez. I'll call the roll.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
All right, 11D.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending the Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Chapter 74 entitled Signs, Article 3, Regulations, Division 1, generally, Section 74-146, Prohibited Signs and Sign Devices, and creating Section 74-151, Additional Billboards, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
All right, this item is a second reading. Do we have any council discussion? What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion.
A motion by the Vice President, second by Rodriguez. Call the roll.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Perfect. I see 11H is, it's a pairing ordinance. Let's take 11H on.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending the Hialeah Land Development Code, Regulation Number 7, Sign Regulations, Section 7-3, Prohibited Signs and Sign Devices, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties in violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
All right, side of the second reading, do we have any council discussion? Do you have any public comments?
Motion otherwise.
We have a motion. I don't know if this amendment. Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Zogby.
Second.
We have a second by the Vice President. Call the roll.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, 11E. Went back to 11.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending chapter 2 entitled Administration, Article 4, entitled Purchasing and Competitive Bidding, Division 2, entitled Competitive Bidding Procedure as follows. by amendment to section 2-812 to prescribe current minimum bid amounts set forth herein, by enactment of a new section 2-812.1 entitled Small Purchases, prescribing procurement procedures for purchases under $65,000 general and $100,000 construction. Enactment of a new section 2-812.2 entitled Unauthorized Purchases. Enactment of a new section 2-812.3 entitled Emergency Purchase Procedures, prescribing procedures for such purchases. Amending section 2-817 entitled Exceptions to Bid by adding additional exceptions, and the enactment of a new section 2-826 entitled Public-Private Partnerships, Unsolicited Proposals, setting forth definitions and procedures for public-private partnerships and unsolicited proposals, providing for no protests, providing for a limited bid publication waiver in certain instances, providing for intended, included, and excluded projects, providing for applicability period, providing for a severability clause, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a penalty, providing for codification in the city code, and providing for an effective date.
All right, this item is in second read. Do we have any public comments online or in the chamber?
None online?
Do we have any council discussion? We have a motion.
Motion.
A motion by Councilman Zogby.
Second.
And a second by the Vice President. Call the roll.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Tonedor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
All right, 11F.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance accepting the dedication of land improved with a pump station of approximately 2,695 square feet, subject to and approving the terms of the special warranty deed attached as attachment 1 from Relp Beacon Logistics, a Delaware limited liability company, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
This item's in second reading. Any public comments in the chamber or online?
None online?
Motion.
We have a motion by Councilmember Zogby. We have a
Second.
second by the Vice President.
Mr. Tonedor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
All righty, 11G.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance accepting the dedication of land improved with a pump station of approximately 756 square feet, subject to and approving the terms of the special warranty deed attached as attachment 1 from Relp Beacon Logistics, a Delaware limited liability company, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, any public comments online or in the chamber?
None online?
Pleasure of the board.
Motion.
Motion by the Vice President,
Second.
second by Zogby.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tonedor?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
11I.
First reading of proposed ordinance repealing and rescinding Hialeah ordinance number 2016-034, attached hereto as Exhibit A, adopted on June 20th, 2016, rezoning the property from R1 One Family District to OPS, Office and Professional Services District, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, it's in first reading. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion.
Motion. A motion by the Vice President, second by Zogby.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tonedor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for June 25th, 2024.
All righty, moving on to unfinished business.
I think the election thing is unfinished.
Councilwoman?
Yes, well, going back to the topic of the election,
Mhm.
I was in contact with the Miami-Dade County of Elections to inquire about the process, how it would be in order to include this in the November ballot or hold a special election at a later date. And basically, she provided the information, the deadline, which is August, I believe I mentioned August 26th, if I'm not mistaken, and taking into consideration the councilman's resignation has been formally submitted in writing and it's irrevocable, we have the certainty that there will be a vacancy. Right now, there isn't anything that would impede this from moving forward to be placed on the ballot, or as I mentioned, to hold a special election at a later date. And therefore, I would like to motion to bring back an ordinance to hold a special election at the earliest possible date.
I think the council needs to know before you start entertaining issues that are have already been clearly addressed by the city attorney that goes counter to our charter. The cost of organizing an election, and you can pick whatever date you want, is approximately $415,000. And so you need to take that into account, because I have a suspicion that soon we'll be asked, there'll be pressure and there'll be a drumbeat that, we need to lower our millage rate. And then all the projects that we're doing are going to be in jeopardy as far as trying to make sure that we upkeep the city and the standard that the residents expect. The charter's clear. You can't contemplate filling a vacancy until the vacancy is there. I know that aesthetically, it may look that way to one that says, well, he's going to leave. Yes, he's going to leave. If the goal was to have an election this November, then the vacancy needed to be done immediately, not wait, do it immediately. And then we could have sat for an election. The protocol in the past of the city has been in most cases, if I recall, is to, the council have the ability to do that once the vacancy is here. And once it's here, the council then could decide how they want to fill it, whether it's with a temporary appointment, whether they want to host an election. But the council needs to understand, hosting an election, there's a cost involved. The county does not pay for the cost. It would be the residents of the city of Hialeah.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think what we should do is, because we know it's coming, I don't think it should catch this council flat-footed. And to the extent that we can have our city clerk and city attorney work on getting the council information about potential dates, potential costs, if it is in fact 400,000, is it less? Is there any way that maybe we can combine with another election potentially? I think if we can start doing that due diligence now, I think the council is going to be in a much more informed position and less rushed position to make a decision when it does ultimately have to, because I believe the city charter also says that the council, I think, only has a period of 30 days once the resignation is effective to make up its mind. And so that's a very tight window. I can tell you, when we kind of went through this exercise 2 years ago, when I first started with the council, it is a tight turnaround. And I think at that juncture, we requested even, people to submit resumes if they were interested. And so that was I think kind of a difficult process. So I think to the extent that we can do things now, I think that'll be more prudent to make a final decision, whether that decision is made, in the summer or whether that decision is made come November, because we already canceled a meeting in December anyways for the holidays. We're canceling our meetings in July as is typical. So, to the extent that we can get this stuff done, because it's not going to happen overnight, I think that would be prudent. I think Angelica's, Councilman Pacheco's point is well taken, that, there are obviously people that would like an election and maybe they're fine with the cost, and there's people that might be against that. So, to the extent that we can get the ball rolling, I would second that motion.
If I may, through the chair, just
Yes, sir.
while the motion is pending, I just wanted to clarify that we also spoke to the Dade County Department of Elections, and we spoke to the county elections attorney who handles the elections. So a distinguishing factor with the county is that the Board of County Commissioners some time ago passed a specific county charter amendment. It's only applicable to the county, to county elections that provided when board members resign in advance, several months or whatever at a certain period, the county board was empowered to go ahead and conduct a special election. The county attorney that we spoke to acknowledged that we had no such thing here. So again, it's governed by state law, and under state law, the resignation is effective when it states so on the letter. And when it's stated on the letter is November 1st. And that is in another opinion that was given by another city attorney, so I don't want to quote from it. But you know, what was in the basis of that opinion is when a date is given in a letter, you have a vacancy created, but the position, because of the resignation, but the vacancy only actually occurs on the date given, which in the date that I believe you submitted, council member, is November 1st.
Yeah,
We have no corollary charter section the way the county does. And the county attorney that I spoke to acknowledged that, and that's pretty much the gist of the conversation.
Yeah, maybe, maybe this is an opportunity to create changes to the charter, or maybe create an ordinance that clarifies some of these things. That might also be a path this council chooses to take. Regardless, I think, this is not a controversial thing. All that we're really asking is for the city clerk and for the city attorney to provide the council some information some tangible information as what are the options in terms of dates, in terms of cost. And then the council will make a decision.
Yeah, that factual information would come from the clerk's office and division of elections, because I'm not the elections officer here in the city.
Okay, so you're out, but can we get the city clerk's buy-in? Or maybe the mayor's office can provide some support where needed. I think that's the essence of the motion. I don't want to presume that that's what you're saying, but in essence, I think that's what we're saying.
Yes, exactly. And well, as you said, the resignation isn't effective until it's the date it states, but the election would take place after the effective date of the resignation. And my motion was to hold a special election on the earliest possible date. It didn't even have to be on that date. It's just on the earliest possible day. So we had a motion and we had a second, and and I guess the rest of the council can decide how they would like to vote on this.
We're motioning on something that the city attorney says we can't do. Is that a fair statement?
I don't feel it's appropriate for me to characterize the intention of the council persons. But again, we spoke to the county Department of Elections. I spoke to the county elections attorney, and the distinguishing factor is they have a charter section that specifically provides for that situation. We do not. It falls under the state law, and the state law
Right.
says,
And your interpretation of the state law is what?
well, it's not my interpretation. It's a clear language of 99.012.
Mhm.
The office is deemed vacant upon the effective date of the resignation submitted by the official in his or her letter of resignation.
Got it.
That's not an interpretation. That's
Yeah,
a clear
that's
language
clear.
from the statute. Okay,
Yeah.
that's it.
Perfect.
All right, perhaps I didn't make myself clear enough. My motion is not to specifically include this special election on the November ballot. My motion is to hold a special election on the earliest possible date. It can be November, it can be December, it can be January, and the council has the freedom to vote how they consider appropriate. They can either support the motion or reject it or vote against it. I motioned for it. We had a second, and I would like for my motion to be respected, because every time I try to
Absolutely.
motion, my motion
Yeah.
gets interrupted.
It's just no, and we're gonna call a vote on that. We just wanted to be clear, councilwoman, right? That we're not voting on something that we can't do, right? And obviously, according to our city attorney, the state law is very clear. So with that being said, if you still want to run that motion, then we'll run it.
Yes, I do.
Call the roll.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
No.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
No.
Mr. Tundidor,
No.
Mr. Zogby,
No.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Motion fails at the pleasure of the council.
Any other unfinished business? Any new business? So I'd like to propose one thing, Mayor, if it's possible. I think it's important, maybe at least once a year,
for this council, your office to have some sort of zoning workshop. I think it's very critical to really understand certain terms, right? Understand certain decisions that are made. Look at what other cities are doing with respect to any setbacks or certain practices that we have done here. I think it's important to do that. One, and two, I think it's good to have a roadmap and always go back to it, right? So if I know our team is working on the comp plan, and I think it's important to always remain consistent, right? And say, okay, if this area of town we're going to allow for high density, right? Just as an example. Well, I think every year is good to have Deborah and her team come back and say, hey, well, look, in this area of town, 50% of the parcels have been zoned at whatever high density or something like that, just to keep us in line and keep us in track. I know, Deborah, you're still working on a couple things. I know July is going to be a big month for you in developing certain tools for the council. So I think maybe in August or something, if we can aim for. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, more information, obviously, I think only could help the council make better and wiser decisions. No doubt, the work that Deborah is doing that has taken a lot of public input is critical in order to be able to accomplish that. But I think what the council should always take into consideration is the long-term planning of the city. The city is going through growing pains. Some people don't like it. We've heard some of those complaints. Some of them are just not justified because they talk out of both sides of their mouth. There's a reality. Billy, we try to be respectful, and I know you have issues, but we try to be respectful. Nobody cuts you off when you get up to speak. Nobody cuts you off.
That's fine.
Nobody cuts you off, okay?
Last time, please.
The reality is this, and this is important for residents to understand this. It's important that they understand this. We have perhaps more than 300,000 people living in this city, and they're not all on the books, okay? There is a reaction that's going on. It's a market reaction. It's not a government reaction. It's a market reaction. One of the things that we're experiencing in our city, which is of grave concern, and there's no legislation here that's going to be able to stop it, is that there's a for sale of homes in our city that are not being occupied by people to live them. Let me repeat that. There is homes being purchased in our city that are being bought by investors that are either illegally or legally, if they try to come before the city, and are cutting that house in 2 and 3. That's a reality. And so understand, for all those that are pseudo experts in this, what this means. When somebody comes into a neighborhood and pays the $2 million that someone said out there, there's a ripple effect. And the ripple effect is that it skews all the property values in the area. And the folks that are watching these things are insurance companies and banks. So you could take a home that is virtually paid off, 40 years, 50-year building in our city, a single family home. And because the neighbor sold for $1.5 million or $2 million, now you affected their price. And when the banks see that home in a catastrophic hurricane situation, replacement cost, they're not looking at the loan on how much money they owe. What they're looking at the replacement cost based on this new assessment, property appraisal that's being done. That means that home, in order to replace that home, you need coverage of $1 million, $1.5 million, or $2 million. Okay? This is altering what is going on in our community, big time. The other narrative that we've heard now repeatedly, okay, is that rents are out of control. We have a supply and demand issue, okay? It's a real issue. When you have 100,000 new people coming into your city that the federal government has not documented, that we've already demonstrated through technology that exists, what ends up happening? It skews, again, the rental market. And you know where it's felt more than any place else? It's not in the buildings that you've approved with market rent, okay? Those are not apartamentos de lujo. This is market rent. We need to get the terminology right so everybody understands this, okay? Where it's really skewing the market is in the efficiencies, whether they're illegal or not. The garage that used to be rented for $500, $600 are gone. They don't exist anymore. And by the way, the same thing that's happening in Hialeah, it's happening in Westchester. It's a reality of what we're dealing with. It's a reality of the amount of people that have come into Dade County, and not just from the South, Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, Colombia. I've said this multiple times. Chaos in other places, we reap the rewards of it, but we'll also reap the chaos that comes with it, okay? There is not enough housing. There is not enough housing in the city of Hialeah. And so we cannot bury our head in the sand and think that somehow or another the rents are going to come tumbling down. They will not. If you do not have enough product up in there, if you do not have enough competition in the marketplace, there's virtually nothing that you could do. The state won't allow it. The state won't allow it to begin with. And I don't think anybody here wants to now invest in rent control as they've done in other places or has failed miserably the rent control product. That is where your delinquents start congregating in properties that are rent control driven properties. These are real issues that are going on in our community. And the last thing I think you all need to know when we start talking about housing in our city, and I know that there's a want for low-income housing. The only way to get the low-income housing is when a developer is asking you for concession. And I've said this to you independently, and I've said this publicly. That's the time to negotiate. If they're asking for a variance, then that's the time that you ask them for units that are accessible to the working force in our community. That's the time. If you don't control the land and somebody comes to build by right, you can't stop them, because if not, you're opening the city to lawsuits. That's just the reality. I know that some people want to bury their head in the sand, but that is the reality. And let me tell you another thing. They knock on my door asking me if I want to sell my home, because that's just a reality of the market is hot and people are looking for these things. You cannot create some sort of government control program now that says, no le puedes tocar la puerta a la gente. You can't do that. You can't do that. Are there unscrupulous real estate agents out there? Absolutely. Are they pushy? Yeah, they're trying to put food on the table. And you have the final say is, no, I'm not interested. Okay? And people need to inform themselves before they try to engage, whether it's a real estate agent or, as we've said here before, get a lease. Before you rent, make sure you have a lease. It's your only protection. That's why we've seen some folks that have said, le estoy alquilando fulano, 10 años, me subieron la renta, me tengo que ir para la calle. Did you have a lease? I did not have a lease. Okay. You know, it's easy to bark about these things, moratorium. You know what moratorium means to a lot of the folks that live in this city? Their livelihood. Their livelihood. Esta es una ciudad de obreros. Si quieren paralizar completamente el desarrollo en la ciudad, al primero que le va a dar el bolsillo es a los obreros. Es más, miren en su vecindario y cuántas personas trabajan en la construcción. A eso son los que van a perjudicar las personas que viven en esta comunidad. Y eso se ha tratado antes en el pasado y ha sido un fracaso miserable. Ciudad que no crezca, se queda estancada. Escucha a los hijos de ustedes que se están reclamando constantemente que no hay nada que hacer en Hialeah, porque no hay nada que hacer. Tengo que ir a Coconut Grove, a donde sea. Se tienen que ir de Hialeah porque no encuentran las cosas que quieren ver en Hialeah. Sus mismos hijos son los que están impulsando mucha esta demanda, porque no saben a dónde van a vivir, porque no pueden, no tienen a dónde comprar en Hialeah, entonces se te van para otras partes. Esa es la realidad que estamos ligando aquí cada día, cada día. Se puede jugar política con estos temas, no hay problema ninguna, ¿ok? Aquí se pueden hacer videos, tirarlo a la calle y jugar toda la política posible en el mundo. Es más, y mal informar al pueblo, se puede hacer. Pero si quieren transparencia y honestidad, si eso es lo que quieren, entonces vamos a ligar aquí con honestidad y no con cuentos chinos. Hay una demanda crítica en nuestra ciudad. Por eso estaban viendo constantemente parqueado en sus casas o en la casa del vecino un trailer alquilado ilegalmente. Y no era para dárselo a mami y a papi. No, estaban lucrando al lado de una persona que es dueño de casa, haciéndole la vida imposible a esa persona. porque esos casos han venido aquí constantemente. Esto es una realidad, ¿ok? Y tenemos aquí charlatanes en nuestra ciudad que quieren tratar de crear miedo, que la ciudad, lo que quieren crear es un gueto en la ciudad de Hialeah. Yo no lo voy a permitir, no lo voy a permitir. Si me cuesta el puesto, me costó el puesto. Pero si queremos calidad en la ciudad de Hialeah, calidad en la ciudad de Hialeah, hay que exigirle entonces que viene a desarrollar, tiene que traer calidad a la ciudad de Hialeah. Y eso es lo único que le ha pedido el Consejo constantemente a los que vienen a desarrollar en esta ciudad. ¿Ok?
All right.
Well,
All right.
through the chair, I would like
Yes,
to have a
ma'am.
word. I would like to say something. I think we have to,
Millie,
we have to
Okay.
evaluate.
go ahead. Hold on one second. Okay, Millie, last one, and we have to remove you. Order, please. Order. We're trying to have order. Okay.
Yeah.
Please.
I-
We're talking about, there's nothing wrong with sunshine there. What are you talking about? Okay, go ahead.
I think it's very important that we evaluate what role we're playing in the gentrification that's taking place in Hialeah. Because without a doubt, there's gentrification. Gentrification displaces the existing community. And right now, as the mayor said, and I wish the mayor would have stayed to listen to us after he gave his speech, but we can only negotiate when we grant concessions. I would like to know, in these 800 apartments that are going to be built in the mall, we granted a concession. How many units did we negotiate for workforce? Could you give me the number, please? Was it 0? But we granted a concession. Now, what is our role in the gentrification? I see it and it hurts and people are suffering and they feel like they're losing their home. They're being outpriced out of the city that was created with the hard work, the sacrifice, the sweat of the working class communities. Hialeah is becoming a city for middle class people. And, that's very nice, but it stops being nice when middle class people are the ones that are now having all of the possibilities to rent this housing. And every day there are less housing options for the person that works at Sedanos, for the security guard, for the lady that works at the daycare. And that is the essence of Hialeah. That's the beauty of Hialeah. Hialeah was never meant to be an upper class rich city or a higher upper class city. So if, the people that have a lower income, I would like to know, do they become second class citizens just because they don't have the means? I have friends, family, relatives. I know many people that have had to leave the city just because of the prices of the rental. And yes, we cannot establish rent control, but what are we doing to slow it down, to slow down the gentrification? The building of these luxury apartments, they are luxury because if you read their descriptions, we have, some that they say meticulous gardens, elegant lobbies, yoga studios, swimming pools. And what is that if that is not luxury? I mean, the developer himself for what's being built in the mall say that we're going to elevate the standard of Hialeah because we're going to bring housing units superior to what Hialeah already has. That is luxury and it will come at a luxury price. And that will increase property values in the surrounding areas, which will increase property taxes, insurance, and in turn increase rent, even up to a half mile around. And that's not taken into consideration. And I just wanted to continue bringing that to light and not allow that to be forgotten, that we have a role and a duty to look out for the needs and the best interests of the people of Hialeah, because we are not, none of us here, we don't own Hialeah. Hialeah is not our personal business. We were elected by the people of Hialeah to be their voice and to decide according to what they want and what they need, not what we think is best for Hialeah financially as if it were a business, but what is best for our residents financially for them. We have to learn to do more with less and perhaps, readjust the budget, analyze the spending. We bring more to increase the tax base, but you haven't evaluated that when you bring in thousands of more people, you also have to provide services for those thousands of people. And those services, all that money they're bringing in, if we're going to do things how they should be done, are going to be spent providing the services, providing police, firefighters, and adjusting or improving infrastructure to be able to accommodate those thousands of people that are being brought in. So I believe that Hialeah is looking the other way when it comes to gentrification. And I say this in the most respectful way. not as a means to criticize negatively, but to create awareness and also consciousness to this problem. It is our duty to look out for the needs and best interests of the longtime residents of the city, not in the new middle class that we're trying to attract.
Thank you. Moving on to land use.
Well, before I, with all the,
Thank you. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. There's one more thing I wanted to say.
Okay.
I have seen that there have been many items here that have to do with zoning and land use and whatnot. And when there has been opposition from the neighbors and the residents, that has been tabled, that has been denied, or the owner of the property has been made to jump through many loopholes. There are scenarios where resident opposition and neighbor opposition, is a priority, and then others where it's completely disregarded. I would like to know, how do we pick and choose? When is the neighbor's opinion important and when is it not?
All right, thank you. Moving on to land use, please.
maybe after land use, but I just wanted to, through the chair, I wanted to briefly tell the council, unrelated to this, but lest I forget, while it was on our minds, that there is a recent case about the state of Florida financial disclosure requirements. And all I want to say very briefly, if you'll allow me, is that a federal judge here in South Florida has held that Form 6, the new state, the state form, not the local forms, is has certain legal issues and has enjoined the state from enforcing that form. It's an injunction order. The state may appeal. It's not a final order. We don't know what happened. But all I want to tell you practically as a result of that is that the state of Florida issued a sort of a little position paper on that. And I just want to summarize it very quickly. Mayors and city board members who were in office as of December 31st, as well as those elected to their positions in 2024 and who already e-filed the Form 6, do not need to file a Form 1. Okay, there is no way to replace a previously filed Form 6 with a Form 1. If you are on and you have been elected or appointed to the positions in 2024 and you have not yet filed, okay, a Form 6, you can file a Form 1 right now. So until this gets clarified, that's basically all I wanted to bring up for your information. If you want any further details, you can get them from our office. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, City Attorney. July, when's the deadline?
July 1st.
July 1st. Okay. All right, land use.
Will all those persons who will be testifying on an item, please stand and raise your right hand.
Las personas que quisieran prestar sus opiniones delante de esta junta, por favor pónganse de pie y alcen la mano derecha.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. If so, say I do.
¿Usted jura o afirma que el testimonio que va a dar será la verdad, toda la verdad y únicamente la verdad y que Dios sea su testigo? Por favor diga que sí si la respuesta es afirmativa.
Let the record reflect that all have responded in the affirmative.
En el archivo público constará que todos han respondido afirmativamente.
So we'll read OU1 to the record.
First reading of proposed ordinance amending the future land use map from major institutions to medium density residential property located at 1098 East First Avenue, Hialeah, zoned R2, 1 and 2 family residential district, and legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Need a motion to table for this item.
Motion to table. So
Motion
next weekend.
to the next meeting.
Next
yeah.
meeting.
By the Vice President.
Is that the first one we're taking? Second? Do we need a second?
Yeah, we need a second,
Yeah.
and second by Zogby. Call the roll.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tonidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo's away, Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is tabled until June 25th, 2024.
LU2.
First reading of proposed ordinance amending the future land use map from low-density residential to transit-oriented development district. Property located at 555 East 25th Street, 502 East 26th Street, 512 East 26th Street, 522 East 26th Street, 532 East 26th Street, 540 East 26th Street, 552 East 26th Street, Hialeah Zoned P Parking District, and legally described herein, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, this is items in first reading. We'll have council discussion and name and address, sir.
We have the presentation. Good evening, council members. Alejandro Arias, offices at 71 Brickell Avenue. I'm joined tonight by project principal Michael Shealy, project architect Ivo Fernandez, and my colleagues Erica Adams and Hugo Arza representing the applicant. We're grateful for the opportunity to be before you this evening and excited to be bringing another transformational project to the city of Hialeah. Next slide, please. This property is approximately 5.6 acres and encompasses a full city block between East 25th Street and East 26th Street and East 5th Ave and East 6th Avenue, just east of Hialeah Park. The property fronts East 25th Street, a major city thoroughfare within close proximity of major employment centers such as Lowell Medical Centers, Hialeah Hospital, and as such, the neighborhood encompasses major healthcare institutions, sparse commercial and residential uses varying from low to high intensity. Next slide, please. The site's currently utilized as a parking lot for Lowell Medical Centers, located just west of their East Hialeah Center and across from their medical arts building. Next slide. The subject property has a current land use of residential low density and in 2017 was rezoned to the P Parking District, a use that was intended to be transitional in nature. Next slide. We're here tonight with staff's favorable recommendation in connection with what is the first required process as part of this proposed redevelopment into a transformative mixed-use development near this key gateway of East 4th Avenue and East 25th Street. The first step is a land use amendment to redesignate the property to TOD Transit-Oriented Development District. The project's location near two mass transit stations, we have one on East 21st Street and East 25th Street, will provide future residents with convenient and efficient commutes and access to public transportation options. This is a strategically located area of the city that will allow many residents to transport easily throughout the city without the need of a car. Next slide. This project is representative of the city's vision, the framework, and consistent with the city's goals, objectives, and policies of the city's comprehensive master plan and those of the TOD district, which stresses the creation of mixed-use development within walking distance of high-capacity rapid transit stations. They also enhance livability, mobility, and the street experience for all modes of transportation, create public open spaces, and promote the establishment of businesses oriented to commuters and residents. Next slide. In connection with this project, the applicant is proposing the redevelopment of the property into an 8-story mixed-use development encompassing approximately 555 multifamily units and 26,000 square feet of ground floor commercial uses fronting on East 25th Street. We will have more detailed information on this item when it comes before you on the subsequent rezoning request. But based on the employment centers near East 25th Street, the commercial visibility of this sector, we anticipate that this will attract national retailers and restaurants that will provide first-class options, not just for residents, but for the employees working in the nearby vicinity along East 25th Street. The project will also provide for a number of quality amenities, including an elegant and secure lobby, dedicated Uber Lyft lounge, fitness center, pool and spa, family amenity area, clubhouse, courtyard, bike storage, and seating areas. And while this is a true transit-oriented project, the proposed development will also provide off-street parking well in excess of the city code requirements, where 834 are required, or 738 are required. We are proposing 834 parking spaces. We're also providing significant on-street parking spaces, which will help the proposed retail uses, and we'll have over 40 on-street parking spaces as well. Next slide. In this current climate of housing supply challenges, this project will also offer significant diversity of unit types for any stage of life, allowing residents to stay in place and move from unit to unit as they upsize or downsize based on their respective living needs. Additionally, through a revolutionary program that we're calling the Hialeah Heroes Program, the applicant is offering to designate 5% of the residential units of the project as workforce housing, with preference to be given to city police officers, first responders, firefighters, nurses, teachers, and city employees. Next slide. Designed by Modis Architects, this project will incorporate elegant and refined architecture and will enhance the attractiveness and visual appeal of this important city corridor. Next slide. Here we can see the East 25th streetscape. Next slide. East 25th Street streetscape during the day with the ground floor retail. We also made it a significant point to have East 25th be the main entrance into and out of the project. Next slide. Closer look of the ground floor retail. We anticipate that we'll also have outdoor dining options for those retailers. Next slide. And we'll have pedestrian access points as well into the project to promote walkability. Next slide. Now, as set forth in staff's favorable recommendation, the proposed land use amendment to TOD is compatible with the neighborhood, as the TOD regulations seek to bring a mix of uses by activating the street level and providing for diverse residential options. This project will certainly help to create a distinctive streetscape that will hopefully be carried forward throughout the entirety of the East 25th Street corridor. Next slide. This project is also within close proximity of the proposed Highline Linear Park, and the applicant has submitted a letter of support in connection with the city amenity and will help to make the city initiative a reality by any means necessary. This project will also serve to beautify and further transform this corridor of the city and will improve resident access to quality housing and commercial options, particularly in this environment of housing supply challenges. It will also preserve and enhance property values and increase the city's ad valorem tax base. It should also be noted that based on the current fee schedule, the applicant will also pay the city over $2.5 million in impact fees for the development of this project. These will go towards parks, fire rescue, police, and transportation impacts. Ultimately, the project's location within a unique mixture of commercial, healthcare, residential allows for an excellent opportunity for employers in the immediate vicinity to live within close proximity to their jobs. Based on the foregoing, we respectfully request your recommendation of approval and are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Alex. Deborah, when you get a chance, can you send me, no, you can stay there. That's fine. Just can you give me a breakdown of the impact fees? So, yeah, that's substantial. I'd like to see in what categories would they be going to? Unless you have it there.
Well, I don't know the numbers because it's a certain percentage that we calculate by the number of units and square footage of the use.
Right.
But you have parks and recreation.
No, I know we have. I just want to know later.
Yeah, but the numbers, I don't have them. I can provide them next time.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And also remember, this is only land use. They need to come to the design review committee before they come forward with the rezoning. At that point, we will know the number of units and everything.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for the gentleman. You mentioned that this development is going to enhance property values. By enhance, could you please clarify what do you mean?
The enhancement of property values is the increase of property.
So the surrounding property values will increase.
Naturally with
Yes, that's have been one of my concerns with all of these developments, because right now property values are at an, record-breaking high. And the city of Hialeah, the homeowners, they're struggling with the property values that continue to rise. And along with that, their property taxes go up and their insurance goes up. And I know you said that this is compatible with the area, but this is a low-income area. I don't know if you're familiar, if you're familiar with the people that live with the income, with the medium income of the area, but this is an example of the gentrification. I'm concerned just because of the, how luxurious this building is, the impact it's going to have in the surrounding areas.
I think that we should not confuse the ability to provide luxury and quality with something that is unaffordable. Again, there are certain units in this building that will be designated and prioritized for workforce and for Hialeah. As well as when I discussed the enhancement of property values, you also have to take into account that we have to compare apples to apples. I'm talking about multifamily to multifamily and single family to single family. So when I say preserve property values, I'm discussing the multifamily projects. And with respect to this area, in Hialeah Park, you have developments. If you move forward to the east, you have transit-oriented development. So it is really an area that is in transition. You have major employment down this corridor as well. So I'd say that in the city, this is one particular neighborhood that is well suited for this type of product.
No, I understand. I mean, I had brought this information to the council at a previous meeting, but the University of Georgia, they published in a journal their findings on the impact of the transit-oriented development that was done in the Atlanta Beltline. And it was found that the properties located within a half-mile, all properties, they had an increase of value between 17 to 26% greater than the properties located farther away. So this affected all property values. So all neighbors, all residents, all homeowners in the area will see their property values enhanced. They will go up and they will pay more taxes and more insurance, and rent will go up after this beautiful building is built.
Can I say something about that study of the University of Georgia? I know the Beltline very, very much. I have been to Atlanta many times, and the Beltline is the best thing that happened to them, because it's what you have to balance everything. They put the Beltline and the transportation improved. So all the car traffic that here they say, well, you put more buildings, there is more traffic. What you do is you decrease that traffic, because here, for example, you have the Hialeah Hospital, you have Citrus across the street, you have Leon Medical Center, you have lots of people, and we capture these with the technology that the city has. Lots of people coming to the city every day, driving from outside, because those doctors don't live around there. So they need the doctors, the nurses. So we need this density here to help other things, also the transportation. So it's not only about the single family home prices, it's also about the transportation, the mobility within the city, and also, for example, the train and the tri-rail and the metro rail. You need more ridership for it to be more convenient. If you have to wait 40 minutes for a train, you won't use it. But if you have more people that use the train, then the frequency will be like better, and you will have to wait 5 minutes. So that will encourage you to take the transit. So one thing that you bring helps you improve other things. So the enhancement is not only the property values, there are other enhancements that come together when you bring density next to places of employment and also transportation.
And no, I want to thank you for the explanation, but I've never argued that it doesn't beautify the area. There are many positives to it. My argument is that this progress is unattainable. It's out of reach for our existing population. It's inevitable. This is not compatible with the income of our Hialeah residents. And I made a promise when I ran for city council, and I promised that I would stay firm by my belief in that we have to look out for the best interests of our people. And I want progress for the people that already live here. I want things that they can afford. So I know that we cannot completely control, but I would like to encourage, keeping in mind the people that are here and building things that they can use, that they can enjoy, that they can live in, not just, for someone said, for the ladies that are going to come here to Hialeah with their designer dogs.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Listen, I think ultimately what it comes down to is balance. I think, you obviously have to hear both sides, and, too much construction that doesn't follow a set plan is dangerous. And look, I applaud Councilmember Tundidor's, idea of having a session where we can kind of discuss some of these things, because we look at things very on a per applicant basis, but we sometimes miss the bigger planning picture. And obviously, some of that work is being done through the master plan. However, at the end of the day, looking at this item specifically, I mean, we're talking about something that is a parking lot zoned low density, or its land use is low density. I mean, clearly, I don't think there's any corner of Hialeah that qualifies as low density. Even single family homes have 10 or 15 people living in it. So to the extent that we replace parking lots with housing for, these are critical essential personnel. We're talking about nurses, doctors, police officers, firefighters, that will live and play close to where they, work. It's a win-win for everybody. As far as this project goes, I would motion to approve.
Well,
All right.
I
I
One more
second.
thing. I wanted to add, I know there's 5% of the units designated to workforce housing. Could that be increased to 10%?
I would ask the commissioner, how many other applicants have stood here and pro-offered workforce housing as part of their development program?
Well, we have been in conversations and it's something that we're considering requesting, but since this is open for discussion and you're here before us, I'm asking about this particular project.
Certainly, and that's why we've pro-offered. We've been here, we've heard the requirements and the desires of the city. And so that's why we have pro-offered, and I believe we're one of the first applicants to ever pro-offer that. More than that, I think we are the first applicant to make sure that we pinpoint and try to target city employees, police officers, firefighters, nurses. So I stand by the pro-offer that we made. I believe that it is more than fair. I believe that it is totally justified and something that will benefit the city tremendously.
So that would be about 27 units out of the 555.
28 units, yes.
All right, so
Motion approved and
we have a motion by Councilman Calvo and we have a second by Councilman Zogby. Call the roll.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco.
No.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for June 25th, 2024.
PZ1.
Thank you very much.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a conditional use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Section 98-181, to allow a K-1 grade elementary school with a maximum capacity of 44 students in conjunction with a 75 children daycare, a variance permit to allow 18 parking spaces where 48 parking spaces are required, and allow 7 of those parking spaces to back out into the street where backout parking is not allowed. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Section 98-189, subsection 9, and Section 9-3, subsection 3, titled Traffic Flow and Vehicle Parking of the Land Development Code. Property located at 499 East 21st Street, Hialeah, zoned R3, multiple family district, legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item's in second reading. Do we have any public comments online or in the chamber?
No, sir.
Okay, see if we have none. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion. We have a motion by Councilman Calvo and a second by Councilman Rodriguez. Call the roll.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. PZ2.
Postpone. No.
BZ2 is postponed, sir.
It's postponed to June 25th. PZ3.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving a final plat of 711 Hialeah Okeechobee and 18th, accepting all dedication of avenues, streets, roads, or other public ways, together with all existing and future planting of trees, shrubbery, and fire hydrants. Property located at 333 West Okeechobee Road, Hialeah, Florida, and legally described in Exhibit A. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, this item's in second reading. Any public comments in the chamber or online?
None, sir.
It's a pleasure of the board.
Motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Calvo. We have a second by Zogby. Call the roll.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, PZ4 is postponed. We're going to PZ5.
PZ5 is a companion item to the land use item previously deferred.
Got it.
Mr. President.
Okay.
5 and 6 are both related.
5 and 6 go together. All right, so read 5 into the record.
First reading of proposed ordinance amending the existing declaration of restrictive covenants and unity of title recorded in official public records of Miami-Dade County in order to release a restriction on the property which limits the utilization of the property as a religious institution. Property located at 1098 East First Avenue, Hialeah, zoned R2, 1 and 2 family residential district and legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
All right, so we tabled the land use. Can we get a motion to table on this item?
Motion to table.
We have a motion by the
Second.
Vice President and the second by Zogby, and this is to table to the next meeting.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is tabled until June 25th, 2024.
All right, PZ 6.
First reading of proposed ordinance rezoning property from R2, 1 and 2 family residential district to R3, 1 multiple family district and granting a special use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-161, to allow the expansion of the neighborhood business district overlay in relation to a proposed mixed-use development, including 27 residential units and 488 square feet of commercial space. Granting a variance permit to allow residential use on the ground floor, where residential use is only allowed above the ground floor. Allow 27 units with areas ranging from 488 square feet to 626 square feet, where only 10% of residential units may have a minimum area of 600 square feet. Waive the building mass and building frontage development standards to allow street frontage of 135 feet facing East First Avenue and 150 facing East 11th Street, where minimum street frontage of 200 feet is required. Allow a rear setback of 10 feet where 15 feet are required. Allow 30 parking spaces where 61 parking spaces are required. And allow 28.5% pervious area where 30% pervious area is required. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, sections 98-1630.2, 98-1630.8, 98-1630.3, subsection E2, 98-2189, subsection 16A, and 98-2056, subsection B2. Property is located at 1098 East First Avenue, Hialeah, zoned R2, 1 and 2 family residential district and legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, this is a pairing ordinance, so the one that was deferred, do we have a motion to table? We have a motion by the Vice President and a second by Zogby. Go ahead, ma'am.
I want to ask a question for some clarification. I know the gentleman, the lobbyist, he mentioned that you had reached out to him to inform that we would be tabling this. What is the reason that we're tabling this item? What are we waiting for on this item?
Yeah, so I had mentioned it to the gentleman right before the meeting started. I'd like to, I don't know if you knew this, I just had a baby. And so this is actually my first week back. Thank you. And so I've been a little out of it. So I would like some time to review exactly what it is that we have and have some time to sit with Deborah on this project.
Okay.
Okay.
And also perhaps if we can somehow involve the community in this decision-making process.
Absolutely. Yeah, they could always come here. And then in second reading, how I mentioned to the pastor, a second reading is when this specific item is open to the public for public comments. So and we'll keep you posted. You have my number as well. So, all right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is tabled until June 25th, 2024.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you. PZ 7.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a conditional use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-181, to allow a K through 3rd grade elementary school with a maximum capacity of 31 students in conjunction with an 83 children daycare. A variance permit to allow 18 parking spaces, 20% of parking spaces authorized on street, where 62 parking spaces are required. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-2189, subsection 9, Property located at 980 through 990 West 22nd Street, Hialeah, Zone C2, Liberal Retail Commercial District, legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, this item's in first reading. Do we have any council discussion?
Motion.
Motion.
We have a motion by the Vice President. Do we have a second by Zogby? Call a roll.
Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for June 25th, 2024.
All right, next council meeting is Tuesday, June 25th at 5:30 PM. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.